Here is a list of information he relayed to me in a series of 5 meetings in the latter half of 2013. 11 volunteers were picked out. It was a Special Forces Black Ops group under command of NATO in which the Yanks were in charge. Other countries' governments were aware of the operations, but most do not have the technology to deal with it, therefore allowed the Americans to get on with it under the umbrella of NATO. This includes the Russians. Whilst on an operation near the Russian border, a UFO came out of a cavern system and nearly took their heads off, upon which they opened fire. Opening fire would not usually affect a UFO. He thought that there would definitely be another group carrying out these operations today. The operation in Brecon Beacon, where the 2 bodies were discovered, was on Talibant Mountain. The military have secret systems based on a laser that can bring down UFOs. There are 8 around the world that he knew of, 2 in the UK, 1 in Germany and a few in the US. It disables or interferes with the propulsion of the UFO and causes them to come down. The military had an idea roughly as to where and when the UFOs were appearing and would send their team out in advance of firing this weapon. Once the evidence is secured, another totally separate team would come to the site. This could take days. They referred to that team as the collectors, who were always American. They would leave with the evidence and would just leave the find and secure team to fend for themselves. He is still in touch with some of the soldiers from his team, 2 of whom have now died. He has seen hundreds of UFOs, some landed and some in the sky. There was a variety of different shapes. They were not flying saucer shaped, some triangular, others square or rectangular, not aerodynamic shapes. They ranged in size from the size of a car to 3 times the size of an articulated lorry. The surfaces were smooth and some had overlapping tiles. They usually had lights on them of varying colours and configurations. One craft gave off a light like an arc welder and caused damage to their eyes, and he had to be admitted to hospital after that incident. Another craft which they got close to looked metallic, but when pushed by hand gave way, having some kind of elastic property which returned to the original shape after applying a force. He said he thought that because some of the craft were so small, there must be bigger mother-type ships which these craft had come from. I suggested that UFOs might use reservoirs as hiding places, and he said no, they don't go in reservoirs, although when asked where they do go, it seemed he wasn't sure. He said they just appear. He did not know where they were originating from, but stated they are here, meaning they are in our atmosphere regularly. He said they can just appear, and when asked about cloaking, confirmed that he thought they had those kind of abilities, and also incredible dynamics. He said they can come down to the ground very quick. The first operation he was involved with was in northern Scotland, and the largest recovery of bodies was in Australia, a case where 24 bodies had been left. Injuries are the same as animal mutilation type injuries. He said that internal organs would be removed and also brains. He seemed to think that anything connected with the nervous system is what they would take. He did not see a lot of blood on the corpses. They usually choose remote, out-of-the-way places to carry out human mutilations. They knew where to go and where to take from, where the people would not be missed for a long time. Bodies included people and children. He has multiple sclerosis and is on crutches. He has various scars, one of which he showed me on his right arm just below the elbow. He has 3 pins in his hip, he had work done on his shoulder and has had a knee replacement. He said that he hasn't had cancer and then said, touch wood, indicating he is worried about it. I asked if he communicated with any of the ETs he claimed to have seen. He replied no. He said they were incredibly quick. They could move 60 meters in a split second. He said they are not friendly and you would not approach one. He saw 2 of them wearing what looked like wetsuit or a flight suit. He said you could not approach them on your own. You needed cover because they were so quick. He said he witnessed 3 distinct types of ETs on these missions. He stated that in 4 or 5 of these cases there were craft debris and they were able to see what had been on board the craft. This included human and animal body parts. He claimed there is a UFO tracking facility in the military land at Sennybridge. It is stored under the ground and comes up at night. It consists of a large aerial, quite wide, about 50 to 60 meters high. It can be seen from the public road at night above the trees. There is also a radar dish that rotates, and it too only comes up at night. It is about the size of a car. The aerial is used somehow to track the UFOs. The source eventually stopped talking to me. On at least 2 occasions he failed to turn up at pre-agreed meeting places, and the telephone number he gave me was no longer being responded to. Since making the film, I have gathered some more information. Firstly, when Derek Goff first met the source in 1997, on 2 occasions Derek's then wife sat in the back of the car taking notes. Derek has given me original copies of all the notes that were taken in their meetings in 1997. Having obtained the notes, I then managed to trace Derek Goff's ex-wife and went to visit her. She verified that the handwriting in the notes is hers and confirmed that she was present with Derek Goff in 1997 when they met the military source. She stated that she thought the whistleblower seemed genuine and believable. I have also, through a third party, made further inquiries to Gwent Police to try and verify Goff's claims about meeting a Detective Constable Adams and handing in the 11 photographs. So far, these inquiries have proved fruitless, though an approach via the Freedom of Information Act is still pending. The notes from Derek Goff are very interesting and contain some information that was not given to me when I met the military source. Americans had a north base somewhere in Scotland. Bodies that were recovered were put in freezers at this base. Post-mortems were carried out. There were 495 in American team, inclusive of 30-odd commanders. The British soldiers never called the American officers sir, but had to take orders from them before their own senior officers. His team was not allowed to touch the bodies and not look too closely. Americans always took the bodies. In many cases they saw burn marks on the ground, ranging from the size of a car and some much bigger. Sometimes trees would be twisted almost in a full circle. What he has witnessed has affected his whole life. He is now quick-tempered, frustrated, a heavy smoker, and is overprotective of his children. The closest he has been to a UFO is 5 feet. It radiated heat, had no windows, made no noise, and was not actually on the ground. In that case, he and some of his colleagues were submitted to hospital. In the Brecon case, where a male and female were recovered, they went to a car initially. Its engine was running, no one was there. The seats had been removed from the front somehow. The car was taken away by the military and samples were taken from the ground. 2 weeks later, 3 kilometers from where the car was found, 2 bodies were recovered, male and female. The male's skin was peeled away on one side. Private parts, ears and eyes were missing. This is describing the images seen by Derek Goff. No civilian police were present. The military bagged the bodies and removed them. The girl and boy recovered from Brecon were aged between 16 to 21, not 16 and 21 as suggested in the previous film. This was a misinterpretation from these notes. He has witnessed more female cases than male. The burn marks on the ground nearby are often accompanied with pressure marks. He estimates he has seen around 36 bodies in total. Now, when I met the military man, I asked him if he could give me the date that the 2 bodies were recovered from Brecon Beacon. He refused and said that this would be giving me too much information. I set about trying to find corroborating evidence. I went to Brecon Library and scoured newspapers from the mid-80s to the mid-90s. One story stood out as a possible candidate from the Brecon and Radnor Express dated the 23rd of August 1990. It read, "Helicopter search for missing man. Police used their new helicopter and dogs in their search for a London man missing in Lambeda, Crickhowell on Monday. The man, who has not been named by the police, hired a car in London to visit friends in the Crickhowell and Swansea areas. The car was found with its lights illuminated and its engine running. There was no sign of the man. The man was later found in London in a confused state." Some of the facts in this article line up with our mutilation case. Firstly, the location. The military source told me that the bodies were found on Talibont Mountain, and in Goff's notes it states the bodies were found 3 kilometers from where the car was found. As we can see from this map, Lambeda is around 5 kilometers from the Talibont Mountain range, so the location is in the right area. The newspaper article points out that the engine of the car was running and that there was no sign of the man, meaning nobody was there. Goff's notes state the engine was running, no one there, no seats in front, car taken away. After finding the article, I went to Lambeda and spoke to 3 people in the village. Incredibly, all of them remembered the helicopter search in 1990. I spoke to a farmer whose farm is next to the lay-by where the car was discovered. He said he thought there were 2 people missing from the car, not 1 as stated in the newspaper article. He also said he believed that no one was ever found in connection with the empty car. It seems, from speaking to this farmer, that a little white lie may have been inserted into this story about the car belonging to a man from London who was later found in a confused state. If a man was found alive, why is the man not named? And why would they conduct a helicopter search of the mountains just because a man left his car with its engine running? It seems a bit drastic. How did they know he was not in the nearest pub, for example? This part of the story does not ring true and looks like it may have been given to the media to cover up the abduction of the young couple from the vehicle. We have another case which corroborates that the military have removed vehicles from that region. We know about a case in Langunada. He witnessed a UFO, and after the incident his car was covered in a white dust. The military actually took his car off him and gave him over £4,000 in compensation. This was at Langunada, which is in between the 2 locations of Lambeda and Talabont Mountain. So we do know that the military remove vehicles in connection with UFOs in those regions. Now, I'm not 100% on this, but if we assume this newspaper article is speaking about the same incident that the military source informed both myself and Derek Goff about, it means the mutilated couple met their fate on the 20th of August 1990.